The mahogany boardroom felt smaller than usual, despite its impressive size. Maybe it was the weight of the 12 pairs of eyes fixed on me. Or maybe it was the suffocating knowledge that my own family had orchestrated this ambush. Harrison Enterprises' weekly board meeting had turned into my execution. I'm Victoria Harrison, though everyone calls me Tori. At least they did, until they decided I was a liability to the family business. As I was saying, my older brother James continued, standing at the head of the table where our father usually sat. The company needs a clear direction. We can't afford distractions. His eyes flickered to me meaningfully. I sat quietly, my laptop open to the presentation I'd prepared, the one they hadn't let me give. 6 months of research into digital transformation, a complete roadmap for modernizing our family's construction empire, now destined to remain unshared. Tori's ideas about digital integration are too radical, my sister Amanda chimed in, her perfectly manicured hands folded primly on the table. We're a construction company, not a tech startup. The irony of her statement almost made me smile. If they only knew about the meetings I'd had this morning, about the papers sitting in my briefcase that would reshape the entire industry. Father cleared his throat, his silver hair catching the morning light. Perhaps we should put it to a vote. His voice carried that familiar note of disappointment he perfected over my 32 years. All in favor of removing Victoria from her position as Chief Strategy Officer? I watched as hands rose around the table. James, smirking slightly. Amanda, not quite meeting my eyes. Uncle Robert, who taught me to read blueprints when I was 10. Aunt Patricia, who'd always said I was too much like my mother. Brilliant but difficult. Even Cousin Michael, who I'd helped get his first project management role, raised his hand after a moment's hesitation. It's unanimous then, Father announced. Though he hadn't voted himself, he never did. He preferred to let others do the dirty work while maintaining plausible deniability. Don't worry, little sister, James said, his voice dripping with fake sympathy. We'll make sure your shares are properly managed. You clearly aren't equipped to handle the responsibility. I closed my laptop slowly, deliberately. Is that all? You'll need to clear out your office by the end of the day, Amanda added. We have a reputation to maintain. A reputation. That's what they were worried about. Not the fact that our biggest competitors were going digital. Not the emerging companies disrupting the market. Not the billion-dollar opportunities they were too blind to see. Of course, I said calmly, gathering my things. I wouldn't want to damage the family name. This is for the best, Victoria, Father said, finally meeting my eyes. You're too much of a dreamer. Construction is about concrete and steel, not algorithms and apps. I stood, smoothing my charcoal gray suit, the one I'd worn to sign the papers this morning. The papers that would make tomorrow's meeting very interesting indeed. Just one question, I said, pausing at the door. Who's handling the Morgan development pitch tomorrow? James puffed up immediately. I am. $50 million contract. Biggest residential development deal in the city's history. Something you wouldn't understand, sister. It requires a traditional approach. Traditional, I repeated softly. How fitting. Don't worry your pretty head about it, Amanda sneered. Focus on finding a nice corporate job somewhere. Something with fewer responsibilities. I shouldered my bag, feeling the weight of the documents inside. Oh, I'm not worried. I'll be at the Morgan meeting tomorrow. You're no longer part of this company, James snapped. You can't just. I'll be there. I cut him off. But not as a Harrison. I opened the door, then turned back one last time. By the way, did anyone bother to research who owns Morgan Development Group now? The silence that followed me out was almost as satisfying as what tomorrow would bring. Almost. In my office. Well, my former office. I took one last look at the view. The city sprawled out below, cranes dotting the skyline like mechanical giants, each one representing a piece of the empire my grandfather had built, the empire my father had expanded, and the empire my siblings thought they were protecting from my modern ideas. My phone buzzed with a message from Marcus, my CFO. Everything's set for tomorrow. The papers are filed. Summit Industries is officially on record as Morgan's new parent company. I smiled, running my finger along the spine of my grandfather's old ledger, the only thing I planned to take with me. He'd written something on the first page years ago. The future belongs to those who can see it coming. My family was so busy protecting the past, they never saw the future sneaking up behind them. But tomorrow, in that same boardroom, they'd learn exactly what the future looked like. And it looked like me. The next morning, I dressed with particular care, not in the conservative suits my family preferred, but in a sleek black dress that spoke of power and precision. The kind of outfit you wear when you're about to change everything. As I drove to my real office, the penthouse suite of the city's newest smart building, I thought about the last family dinner, before today's vote. The way they'd laughed when I talked about digital transformation. Construction is about bricks and mortar, James had declared. Leave the computers to the tech nerds. My phone lit up with updates from my team. Summit Industries' acquisition of Morgan Development Group was still under wraps, known only to a select few. The timing had to be perfect. Victoria, my executive assistant Michael, greeted me as I entered my actual office. The Morgan team is ready for their preliminary meeting. I nodded, taking in the wall of screens displaying real-time data from construction sites worldwide. Sites my family didn't know I controlled. And Harrison Enterprises. James just arrived at Morgan's offices for what he thinks is the pitch meeting. He's about to learn it's been moved to their main conference room. I smiled. Make sure our team is in position. I want everything recorded. The Morgan building's main conference room was designed to intimidate. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panoramic view of the city, including several Harrison Enterprises construction sites. Sites that would soon be under new management. I took my seat at the head of the table, hidden behind the conference room's smart glass walls. Currently frosted, they would turn transparent at the touch of a button. Timing was everything. James arrived first, strutting in with his presentation folder and his usual arrogance. Amanda followed, carrying the scale models they still used for pitches. So old school, so predictable. Father entered last, looking imperial in his custom suit. They arranged themselves around the table, not noticing the cameras discreetly recording everything. Morgan's running late? Amanda asked, checking her watch. Actually, I said, pressing the button that cleared the smart glass, revealing my presence. They're right on time. The look on their faces was priceless. James dropped his folder. Amanda's perfect posture crumpled. Father just stared. What are you doing here? James demanded. This is a private meeting. Is it? I opened my laptop, connecting it to the room's display system. Let's talk about privacy, shall we? About private companies, private acquisitions, and private transformations. The screens came to life, displaying Summit Industries' portfolio. Billions in assets, hundreds of construction sites, and most importantly, complete ownership of Morgan Development Group. What is this? Father's voice was barely a whisper. This, I said, standing slowly, is the future you were too busy mocking to notice. Summit Industries, my company, has been quietly acquiring development firms, construction technology patents, and yes, Morgan Development Group, for the past 3 years. Amanda's face had gone pale. That's impossible. You don't have that kind of capital. No. I pulled up another screen. Remember that digital integration platform you all rejected? The one you said would never work in construction. I built it anyway. Licensed it to our competitors. Those algorithms you dismissed? They're now the industry standard. James lunged for his phone, probably trying to verify what I was saying. Our lawyers will do nothing. I cut him off. Everything was done legally, through shell companies and holding firms. The same way Harrison Enterprises acquired its first contracts. The same way grandfather built his empire. I just did it digitally. Father stood slowly. Why? Why go behind our backs? Behind your backs? I laughed softly. I tried to do this with you, presented the plans, showed you the potential. You all voted no. Voted me out. So I did it myself. The door opened and Morgan Development's executive team entered, my executive team now. They took their seats around the table, nodding respectfully to me. Ladies and gentlemen, I addressed the room. Thank you for coming. Today's meeting isn't about a pitch. It's about an announcement. Summit Industries is launching the largest digital transformation initiative in construction history, starting with all current Harrison Enterprises contracts. The room erupted in chaos. James was shouting something about family loyalty. Amanda had actual tears in her eyes. Father just kept staring at the numbers on the screen. You can't take our contracts, James finally managed. Actually, I pulled out a stack of documents. I can. Most of your clients have already agreed to transfer their projects to Summit. They prefer our modern approach, our real-time monitoring, our cost-saving technologies. All the things you said would never work in construction. This will destroy the company, Amanda whispered. No, I corrected. This will force it to evolve. You have 2 choices. Either adapt to the digital age, partner with Summit Industries, and learn how modern construction actually works, or become obsolete. And if we refuse? Father finally spoke. I smiled, the same smile he used to give me when explaining why my ideas wouldn't work. Then watch as every major client you have switches to a company that's actually ready for the future. Your choice. The next few days unfolded exactly as I'd planned. Harrison Enterprises stock plummeted as news of the Morgan deal spread. Not just the loss of the $50 million contract, but the revelation that their biggest competitor was run by the daughter they'd so publicly dismissed. I sat in my Summit Industries office, watching multiple screens track the fallout. Client after client announcing their switch to our digital platforms, industry analysts praising our innovative approach, and most satisfyingly, Harrison Enterprises board members frantically trying to contain the damage. Your father's here, Michael announced through the intercom. No appointment. I checked the security feed. Father stood in the lobby, looking smaller somehow. No power suit today. No air of authority. Just an old man realizing the world had shifted under his feet. Send him up. The office fell silent as he entered. His eyes took in everything. The wall of screens, showing real-time project data, the holographic building models, the teams of young engineers working on tablets instead of paper blueprints. This is quite an operation, he said finally. It's what I tried to show you, I replied, not offering him a seat. 3 years ago, when I first proposed digital integration. He nodded slowly. The board is meeting tomorrow. Emergency session. They're concerned. They should be. Summit just acquired Peterson Construction. Their digital infrastructure integrates perfectly with ours. Peterson? His face paled. But they're our biggest supplier. Where? I corrected. Now they're part of Summit's vertical integration strategy, along with advanced materials tech, global logistics partners, and several other companies you depend on. You're systematically dismantling everything we built. No, Father. I'm building something better. Something that should have included Harrison Enterprises if you'd all just listened. My phone buzzed. Another client announcing their switch to Summit. Father flinched at the notification sound. James resigned this morning, he said quietly. Amanda's talking about selling her shares. Smart move. They'll be worth half as much by next week. He sank into a chair without waiting for invitation. What do you want, Victoria? Money? Power? Revenge? I turned to face him fully. I want what I've always wanted. To modernize construction. To bring this industry into the digital age. To build something meaningful. By destroying your family's legacy? Legacy. I pulled up our latest project on the main screen. A revolutionary smart city development. This is legacy, Father. Not clinging to outdated methods because that's how we've always done it. Not dismissing innovation because it's unfamiliar. Not voting out someone because their vision threatens your comfort. A notification popped up. Our stock had jumped another 10% on news of the Peterson acquisition. The board, Father hesitated. They're considering options. Merger possibilities. I smiled. You mean they're hoping Summit will absorb Harrison Enterprises? Save them from becoming completely obsolete? Would you consider it? 2 conditions, I said, pulling up a document I'd had prepared for weeks. First, complete digital transformation. No compromises, no traditional holdouts. Second, I met his eyes, I run it. All of it. No family votes, no board interference, no more dismissing ideas because they're different. The board won't like that. The board doesn't have a choice. In 3 months, Summit will control 60% of the construction technology market. In 6 months, any company not using our platforms will be effectively locked out of major contracts. You can be part of that future, or you can watch it happen from the sidelines. He stared at the document for a long moment. You planned all this, from the beginning. No, I corrected. I planned to do it with you. You all chose to make me do it without you. My phone buzzed again. Pictures from James clearing out his office. Funny how karma works. If we agree, Father said slowly, what happens to the family? That depends on them. Amanda's actually quite good at project management. When she's not busy undermining me. James? Well, James should probably explore other opportunities. And you? Yes? You get to decide if you're ready to learn from your daughter. To admit that maybe, just maybe, the quiet one in the family meetings actually knew what she was talking about. He stood, straightening his jacket, a nervous habit I'd never seen before. The board meets at 9 tomorrow. I know. I own the building they're meeting in. As he turned to leave, he paused. Your grandfather, he would have been proud. Grandfather left me his private journals, I revealed. He wrote about seeing the future of construction, about wanting to modernize. You all were too busy protecting his old methods to realize you were betraying his actual vision. The door closed behind him softly. I turned back to my screens, to the empire I'd built while they thought I was failing. A message popped up from my team. Morgan project groundbreaking ceremony next week. Press wants to know if Harrison Enterprises will be mentioned in the announcements. I thought about family, about legacy, about the future my grandfather had dreamed of. Yes, I typed back. Tell them it's a story about evolution, about how sometimes you have to tear down the old foundation to build something stronger. Because success isn't just about proving people wrong, it's about proving yourself right. And sometimes the best revenge isn't destruction, it's creation. The family that voted me out, they'd learn that lesson tomorrow. And every day after, as they watch their quiet disappointment reshape an entire industry. I picked up my grandfather's old journal, reading his final entry. The future belongs to those brave enough to build it. Looking out over my city, at the cranes and buildings bearing my company's logo, I smiled. The future belonged to me now. And I was just getting started.